Talking about the hottest real estate markets, it's interesting that when investors look for appreciation, some of the hottest real estate markets, from an appreciation or from a growth standpoint, are generally older homes and established, in certain areas. And, I read a book called Zillow Talk, and, whatever real estate agents may say about Zillow, they're getting better. They're getting smarter. Their algorithms are improving. They're constantly innovating to bring new technology to the real estate industry, and they've got a large amount of capital to invest in it. And in their book, they talked about studies as to determine what the next kind of groundbreaking, hottest areas in the market are going to be. And they configured it around a few things, and it was, proximity to decent, at least B-rated schools, proximity to the downtown area, looking for lower than average sale prices in an area, and looking for, amazingly enough, a Starbucks close by within a short proximity. So when I started thinking about where were the areas I would want to be investing in, just running through the data that they have in their book, to me it looked like the area around Eulalie, Tampa Heights. It looked like West Tampa, which is, just a little bit further down, down the way from Eulalie, which is like the 33607 zip code. And then I really liked Citrus Park, that area around the Citrus Park Mall. There's a lot of really inexpensive homes there that, that are just prime for first-time home buyers and for reasonable prices. I mean, we've sold a couple in that area for $130,000 and $150,000 that were nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, move-in ready, homes. And then the other one was, south of Gandy. Obviously a little further south than we are right here in the studio. South of Gandy's kind of been abandoned for a long time. A lot of people in South Tampa really avoided it, didn't want to buy there, or thought that it was inferior for some reason, but it has a huge, a huge opportunity for gain because of all the infrastructure and development, and then of course the attraction of the military living close to the base. So those are kind of some of the areas that I see as really hot for potential appreciation. Would you guys see any other areas you think of that kind of fit that same kind of thing, or where you're seeing similar, gains or believable gains?
Yeah, I think it's dotted around the map in Tampa Bay right now. I mean, you just see those little pockets, and like we were discussing earlier, just like with the East Hillsboro, East County area of that mythic I-4 corridor that's been discussed for 10 or 15 years, but it's now happening, and you've got areas between the Tampa and Orlando markets, and your Champions Gate popping up, really just blowing up over there, and Haines City and all of those developing areas across the corridor.
It's funny because when a real estate market recovers, it always recovers first in the hottest areas. So South Tampa, I think, probably recovered first. Fishhawk recovered first. West Chase recovered first. Those really targeted areas, and then all the other areas kind of trail, and they recover more quickly. And I think that's why when you look at the appreciation across the board, the potential appreciation in some of the lower priced neighborhoods is greater because there's greater gain there. So it's not to say that some of the homes in those areas, in those other areas, aren't going to appreciate. It's just they're already doing well enough because they're already attractive enough. Where I see the biggest potential for gain are in some of those undervalued neighborhoods across Tampa Bay, and that's what Zillow Talk's book was really about, was finding those undervalued areas that over the next few years are going to really improve. And those are a few that I think of. Obviously, you can see some of that in Plant City. You get close around some of those Amazon warehouses, and you can see some of the same thing happening with more people wanting to move and live there. You could see the same thing, I think, as you get closer to downtown in a few years with what Jeff Innick's going to do. I think that'll spread outside of that area. It's similar to, and Arnie can probably, Arnie's the elder statesman. I got but no, Arnie, I think there was
the wise one.
I think you can probably, testify to the statement that South Tampa wasn't always the hottest part of town. There was a time when it was not great, where people really kind of wanted to live in.
Yeah, the houses were kind of dated, and but that all has changed.
Right.
And, so something like south of Gandy probably be like a similar. Not as far as price range is concerned, but I could see that really growing, especially with the military being so close.
I think we're fortunately at a military base that is always going to have. We're not dealing with a little satellite base. It's Central Command. We've got a powerhouse base there where you're always going to have people coming in.
And real estate's always moving when you're working with military because they're getting
buying and
relocated,
selling.
they're in and out.
And it's interesting to see with what's planned there with the base, with the the boats that are going back and forth from Apollo Beach.
That would be
area.
really cool.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's still in discussion and planning. I mean, I think it's
It's
something
in
that's-
strong discussion.
Yeah, it's I mean,
a little
it's on
ferry.
it's a ferry across, and so when people start to realize that maybe automobiles is not always the best method of getting from A to B, you know, I think that will start open up a lot of opportunities.
That's something interesting for you guys, obviously, with a lot of your East Hillsborough stuff, because that's one of the draw. You get to a certain distance out, and at some point the military guys are like, man, it's a little too far, because of the commute, not because of. I wouldn't say the distance. I would say more the commute, because they can run into traffic, and obviously everybody knows the military is very, 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 very focused on being on time and all that. But you start bringing in some other modes of transportation. You bring a ferry across there, or a couple of them a day that rotate every few minutes, ever so often.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that boat ride across there? I mean,
It's nothing.
I know.
It
It's
was like
minutes.
15 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
It was like 10 or 15 minutes.
compared to driving all the way around and then getting stuck, and plus I think it'd be kind of cool. I'm getting off work, I'm gonna go hop on the boat to go home.
Right.
Wouldn't that be cool?
We'll have a cocktail every day.
Yeah. I want to own the boats. Like that, I think we should just start that. Let's just start. Let's own the boats. Do some. We'll sell some houses on it. While the DR Hortonwall division, while the Waterstone Mortgage division will qualify you. No, but in reality, I think that area and that pocket is important.
See, I was going to gong you for talking too much, but then you started mentioning DR Horton and Waterstone. I said, okay.
I think I went over my 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Who's got something else? Somebody else say something.
No, just the only thing we were talking earlier about the hot areas. You mentioned a lot of them. With the military, we see a lot of people in that 301 corridor. And I remember going down to Big Bend Road. That was like forever away, and we've got a couple communities down that area which
Yeah.
are selling very well. And you can find those A and B rated schools.
Yep.
And I mean, just within the last 6 months, we've seen prices go up, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 from where we opened them.
That's incredible. I mean, and again, so when I talk about markets that are doing well, the markets I talked about aren't the only ones. They're just the ones I naturally thought of, because they're the ones I'm closest to. So I'm driving through them and thinking, So if you get down into some other areas, there's no question there's a lot of that. There's I'm sure there's pockets in Wesley Chapel where you're seeing some of that. There's probably areas in New Tampa, Lando Lakes, where you're seeing that same kind of appreciation. And it's funny because, and I think you guys can probably all agree with me here, but we're starting to get the pundits believe, it's a bust. A bust is coming.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't.
The bubble.
The fear mongering that people are scared. It's the bubble's gonna bust tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. This feels like, and I go back. We all have been in this business for a long, long time, and some of us back into the '90s, and this feels about like 02, 03 right now, without the zero down home buyer, people with vested money into deals. I mean, it's easier with certain lender partners for sure, but in general, it's a tougher loan to acquire than it
Correct.
was. The loan approvals on a napkin with a crayon.
Do you have a fingerprint here?
Right.
Thumbprint this. You're good.
You're good. You're approved.
Here's the other side of it that I think is really important that makes me feel confident about the continued success of the market. We still have a ton of cash in the market. There, nothing like it was when we had the bust.
In my
When
mind.
we had the bust,
Yeah.
there was very little cash. It was all.
I'm the elder statesman. There's been very little cash in my entire career.
And now,
it's
a
50%
lot
of the
cash.
market, and it's sustained itself for like 5 years or more. It's crazy.
Which means people aren't hedging everything. They're not gambling.
Right.
They're making good decisions. And that's not to say there aren't some of those people using cash who shouldn't get a mortgage, because I think there's a lot of them that should. But because of the returns, the rates, it's crazy. Why would you use your cash? Go get a better return with your cash. But there are certainly, and I think that makes me feel more confident that the market's on more solid principles than all of the lending that was going on back in the bust. So we're going to continue the conversation after a quick break. We're going to wrap up the show. Make sure to check out TampaBayHouseValue.com. If you're looking for a home value estimate, again, that's TampaBayHouseValue.com. You can get your home values estimate as well as a monthly market report about your neighborhood. And we'll be back after a quick break here to wrap up the show with our last segment on 970 WFLA.